Hey everyone, it's Ivan, KidBadger.com, here to bring you a little rundown on Q's 762 silencers. Q ultimately offers two different silencers in two different flavors. By flavors I mean, is it a direct thread or does it go on to their muzzle device, which is the Cherry Bomb. This one right here is the smaller of the two. This is the Trash Panda, and this threads straight on to their Cherry Bomb. They also have kind of the analog to this direct thread is the Half Nelson. Larger than this, dimensionally longer, is their Thunder Chicken. Analog to that with the direct thread is going to be your Full Nelson. These silencers dimensionally are 1 3/4 inch, and then they obviously, based on volume, vary in length depending on which one. Dimensionally, the Trash Pan is just under 7 inches, so is the Half Nelson. Weight-wise, right around 12 ounces. Trash Panda is a hair under and the Half Nelson is a hair over, but ultimately you are saving weight with the Half Nelson being direct thread because the Cherry Bomb, which this adapts to, weighs 2 ounces. Thunder Chicken, about 1 inch longer than your Trash Panda, right around 8 inches. And the Full Nelson, again direct thread, just shy of 9 inches. Weight-wise for the Thunder Chicken, right there sitting just close to 15 ounces, whereas the Full Nelson, right about 17 ounces. While at Q, I was fortunate enough to, one, actually see how these guys were made, as well as talk to the engineers about just some of the kind of the design elements. When it comes to designing a silencer, it's a trade-off because there is no free lunch. If you have concentric holes going all the way down your silencer, it's going to be really, really accurate, but it's not going to be very quiet. So it's finding that balance in there. To that end, it's really important to have a concentric hole on that first blast baffle, and then past that, you're going to have asymmetrical, like non-concentric holes. What that's going to do is disrupt and pull and harvest all those gases that are moving through here, which is going to be quiet for you. I really enjoyed seeing these things get made. I find it fascinating. And starting with a big stack of these titanium baffles. They get put together in this big press down where they need to be, and after that it gets moved over to basically this magic machine. Human lines it up, and then a computer takes over. And it does these perfect concentric TIG welds all the way around, making sure this thing is rock solid. That does ultimately a couple things for you. One, it makes sure this is perfect because you don't have human element introduced into the weld. But in addition to that, it makes sure that the silencer is actually really light. How were they able to make these light? By not using a sleeve over it. Some of the engineers came over from SIG, and after designing SIG silencers, they're like, hey, how can we make this lighter? Well, turns out by not putting a sleeve on. If you look down at a SIG silencer at the bottom, there's that lip. That was originally made because a sleeve was going to slide over it and it was going to get welded on because they weren't sure if the silencer was going to be strong enough with just the baffles welded together. Turns out they are. So consequently, all of the Q silencers don't have a sleeve over them. It's just all these concentric welds holding all the different baffle stacks together. Question being, are these welds strong? Absolutely. While I was there, I actually got to check out a silencer that got sent in for repair because someone had a pretty nasty baffle strike. Round ended up coming, hitting this very last section, ripped, basically looked like someone just ripped all the titanium out. A lot of force, but what gave? This giant thick piece of titanium, none of the welds. Pretty impressive. And due to the design, really easy to repair your silencer. Cut off the affected baffles, toss those, throw on however many new baffles need to be on there, re-weld it, you're in business, good to go. And beauty of them actually serializing the bottom, basically that blast chamber, is if somehow you destroy this portion of it, honestly, you're probably not in a position to send this thing back in under warranty anyway. Are these full auto rated? Yes, they are. Can you destroy them? Yeah, if you're stupid. While I was there, someone actually sent one in, which they warranted, Goodwill, and the person basically put it on like a 7.5 inch 7.62 by 39 Diablo, like 150 rounds as fast as they could dump through it, and it burned the thing out. How's that happen? Well, titanium, while the melting point is 3,000 degrees, and you can run these things full auto, if it's sustained, titanium starts to lose strength, kind of that durability and stuff, around 800 or 900 degrees. So if you have a super heavy load of rounds going through one of these, you're gonna melt it. Not a machine gun suppressor, even though it is rated full auto. If you want a machine gun suppressor, you need something made out of Inconel, which, while it has a lower melting point, it actually holds up to heat a lot higher than that 800-900 degree threshold that titanium sits at. What the hell is a taper? Why should you care? Both the Thunder Chicken and Trash Panda go on to the Cherry Bomb, their muzzle device, and the Full Nelson and Half Nelson are made to thread onto tapered barrels. If you don't have one, you can get an adapter. What it really comes down to is magic, science, physics. Tapers, cones, they're amazing. If you think about dropping a marble into a cone, it immediately finds center. Same thing's going on when we try and thread this guy on, because what happens is the taper on our Cherry Bomb or barrel and the taper inside of our silencer marry up and immediately create alignment. You won't have any misalignment issues. The one where the dude blasted through the end of his silencer, yeah, that was on him. Ridiculous amount of stuff going on and bad things happen. If you use tapers on tapers, everything lines up perfectly. In addition to that, when you hand tighten this thing, it's on there. It's not going to come loose. If you think about it as a doorstop, except a 360-degree doorstop, once you tighten this on there, it's actually going to take a little more force to take this off than it did to put on. You're smearing the two surfaces together, creating a really solid lockup that at the same time you can break free. In addition to that, by having the taper in front of the threads, whether it's on the barrel or on the Cherry Bomb, what you end up with is a seal surface along the taper, protecting all of your threads from carbon or anything like that. So even if you have a ton of rounds through it, still easy to come off. Let's talk volume for a second. Volume ultimately, all factors being equal, is going to make something quieter for you. Having more volume, more room for those gases to expand. So while this is a Q silencer, the SIG silencer to, say, a Surefire silencer, order of magnitude of about 50% more volume because of the diameter, versus Q silencer compared to, say, the SIG silencer, you're actually getting 10% more from the SIG to the Q. Reason being, there's no sleeve. So while the SIG diameter was actually made for a sleeve, this was made to never involve a sleeve, a little bit more as far as that internal volume. So sleeve, no sleeve, durability, 6 one way, half dozen the other. Really, I guess, depends on intended use, how you're going to use it, how you're going to treat it. Another feature of the Q silencers is their Wire EDM'd, the bore. What is that? Electro Discharge Machine. This fine wire goes through here, a charge is sent through it, and it moves, this wire all the way through it, starts moving really slowly with this charge and starts cutting material away. What they do is make a number of passes. That ensures that basically this is concentric inside. The mounting surfaces are. So when you thread this guy on to your barrel or straight onto the cherry bomb, this is actually going to mate up, and they're going to find center, and that center is going to have this thing lined up to the point where you're not going to have a baffle strike. Again, the baffle strike I saw, people were doing crazy stuff, like going from what, 1/2 by 24, or I'm sorry, 3/8 by 24, stepping down to 1/2 by 28, and then like the spacer, crush washer, shim, crazy stuff. That's how bad things happen. But they do wire EDM all of their silencers. Pretty cool to watch. If you want to pick up one of Q's silencers, you can do so either directly through them, or a number of different places carry them. And all of them are also PVD coated, super durable, stands up really well. Pretty cool silencers. Price-wise, you're looking at anywhere from about $850 to around 900 bucks. And yeah, if you pick one up, let me know how it does for you. And as always, thanks for joining us at kitbadger.com. Look forward to seeing you next time.